This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com. If you're looking to pick up a sealed product or anything Magic related, even pre-ordering cards we mentioned in the video, use the link in the description below to get 5% off your first order. Previews for Commander Legends 2 Baldur's Gate Battle for Baldur's Gate, I don't even know the full set name because it's too confusing, has started already, and we've got tons of previews that have just landed on our laps on this Tuesday afternoon. If any of you are wondering why I sound like shit or why I start to lose my train of thought, I've got COVID, but don't worry, I'm not overexerting myself. I've been taking it perhaps too relaxed today, and now I'm working into the evening. Today is a different spoiler video to normal because I've got Rob with me. Some of you might know Rob from Monday night streams where he hangs out and plays the man that I can bounce things off of. He can ask questions of me. I've brought Rob on because Rob, you've played quite a bit of D&D in your time, right?
Yes, you could say that it's been the passion of mine for the last 20 years. So yes.
So me and Rob know each other because we met through D&D at university. We then played D&D together for like 3 to 4 years. And also you've got a big love for a game that I love too that I never finished, Baldur's Gate 2, right? You've played a lot of that too.
I've played Baldur's Gate 2 more times than I care to remember, and I've even bought it about 5 or 6 times to get it on every single format that was available. But yes, it's something of an obsession of mine, and I can play it literally with my eyes closed these days. So.
A fun fact, I just reinstalled it, by the way, but I couldn't figure out or remember where I'd bought the enhanced edition, because I bought Baldur's Gate 2 many a time as well. I've had it on an iPad and all sorts of shit.
Yeah, do you have it on Good Old Games? Did you get it on Steam? How did you get it?
I searched on Steam, I was like, where the fuck is Baldur's Gate 2 enhanced edition? And then I realised it's on Good Old Games, because I think it came out there first, right? It's like an exclusive thing. Anyway, that's not important, but if anyone wants to see me streaming it, perhaps Rob helping me out as well, please comment down below, because I'm tempted to do some streams of Baldur's Gate 2. Anyway, let's talk spoilers. We're going to talk about them in terms of Magic, and also just talking about where they sit within D&D and what they mean. The first one I've got up is Lazelle Vlaakith's Champion, the legendary Gith warrior for 3 mana. That is a 3/3. If you put 1 or more counters on a creature or planeswalker you control or on yourself, put the mana +1 on each of those kinds of counters of that permanent or player instead, and you get to choose a background. So in essence, it's a 3 mana white creature that has half of doubling season, so it doubles the counters, not the tokens, and it has the background mechanic. Before we talk about what the background mechanic is, Rob, can you tell us anything about? She's a Baldur's Gate 3 character, right?
She is, yes. So in Baldur's Gate 3, you start off on the Nautiloid ship, which is a card we will reference in at some point later, and
it's our next one.
She arrives and tells you basically she explains the plot to you basically, and the fact that you've got a worm in your ear, and she kind of goads you into kind of joining forces so that you can reach a Gith sanctuary, so you can perform a ritual that will be able to extract the Illithid worm from your ear before it consumes you and turns you into an Illithid, or a mind flayer for the common tongue.
Oh fuck! I should say there's going to be spoilers about Baldur's Gate 2 and 3 and 1 as well, actually, in this video.
Well, I wasn't going to spoil any more because there is a little bit more after that as to how the twists and turns happen in the game. But that is basically her function, right?
So no Baldur's Gate 3 spoilers here, but the 25-year-old games, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 or whatever, they're going to have us. 25. When did Baldur's Gate 2 come out?
2003.
Okay, so. My fucking diseased adult brain cannot do that math. I could do the math normally. Anyway, it's an old game.
2000.
I don't really understand why she's got this. I guess perhaps she does like lead the plot a little bit, so putting loyalty on planeswalkers kind of makes sense. The choosing a background thing to explain to people. The backgrounds are coming up, so I'll grab one of them now. In terms of choosing a background, what this is a mechanic that has been attached to multiple creatures, legendary creatures in this set, which is basically a fixed version of partner. In the release note article, they explain that they tried to put partner in the set and realised that actually, on a long enough timeline, that's going to break the fucking mechanic because it was too good in the first place. They reference that both the Stranger Things Secret Lair and Battle Bond did do improved versions or fixed versions of partner, and this is one of those, where instead of having a specific, any partner you want from the partner pool, instead you can have a partner with choose a background on it, add a background partner card, which is essentially a legendary enchantment in the command zone that you can cast that has effects. For example, Criminal Past and Noble Heritage. What these cards essentially do is give extra elements to your commander. They seem to all affect the commander, and I think they all will, right? Because this is a D&D thing where you choose a background that gives you some starting gold or some starting skills, and all of these seem to be named after ones that you'd find in 5th edition, right?
Yes, yeah, all of them are kind of reference to that, and they kind of try and kind of build in sort of some of the skill elements that are associated with it, or with the specific background features that you would have in 5th edition.
Yeah, I really, really like it. It's thematically and flavorful, like really on point for how you build characters. They're literally building extra skills and abilities onto the characters that you're casting them with.
Exactly.
So you're playing like, it's as if you've rolled up the character of Lazelle, but you've picked a criminal past or a noble heritage, for example. I think it's great. I think this is actually really clean, and some people are moaning on Twitter about how they're sad to see Partner not come back, but good riddance to fucking bad rubbish in terms of the magic side of things. We mentioned Nautiloid ships. That's our next spoiler. A mythic 4-mana 5/5 vehicle with flying, crew 3, enters the battlefield exile target player's graveyard. So it's targeted graveyard hating commander, which is decent. And then whenever the ship deals combat damage to a player, you may put a creature card exile with Nautiloid ship onto the battlefield under your control. These are the ships of the Mind Flayers, right, Rob?
Yes, so you'll be seeing a lot more of these as Spelljammer is about to be released, because they are very prevalent in that universe that is coming out soon. But Nautiloid ships essentially are Illithid spaceships. So for those who don't know, the version of Illithids in this universe is that they are from the future, and they've travelled back into the past to basically undo their doomed future. And as a result, they have advanced technology, including basically spaceships, which is what a Nautiloid ship is. If you've seen the trailer for Baldur's Gate 3, you'll see a Nautiloid ship goes in and grabs a load of people and sucks them up into the ship, and then they all get turned into mind flayers, essentially. So that is what this card does flavorfully, right? It eats the graveyard, takes all your dead people, and then turns them into things that you can use as a result. So I think it's very flavorful and very on point.
I mean, so the Mind Flayers or Illithids don't actually reanimate corpses as such, but if you think about the mechanical identity of like what fucking about with hands and graveyards is, it's almost like the Nautiloid ship is consuming memories and thoughts, right? Because the Illithids they have a parasite that converts people, right?
Yeah, exactly so. So they'll stick it in your ear, and then for the context is that for a normal person on the prime material plane, this is like, this person is basically just died, disappeared, and is gone forever as far as you're concerned, because people don't really have, like, Illithids aren't common. So the idea is it's so otherworldly that the person who you've lost might as well be dead. So, and that's sort of one of the other kind of like themes that you find in.
I guess it's cool because the Illithids are like they are alien, right? What's their creature type? It's not aberrant, is it? What's the thing in D&D?
Yeah, they're aberrations.
Aberrations. That's it. So a lot of their like mechanical identity and thematic identity in the Forgotten Realms is like invasion of the body snatchers, picking people up and wiping their memories and taking control of them. It's a lot of like the Americana alien myths, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like,
yeah,
they're manifested into like fantasy.
Yeah, or like they're like the Silence in the Doctor Who episodes. Like it's all that kind of like nefarious otherworldly force that has intelligence and interest in the material plane, to divorce them from the Lovecraftian horrors who don't give a shit about the beings that are actually on Earth. The Illithids are very much kind of like this sort of little green man kind of style invasion alien.
And speaking of which, so we've actually got a creature in this set, which is a good point to tangent onto, which is Illithid Harvester, a 5-mana 4/4 horror. It's got plant tadpoles as its adventure side, which is exciting because, well, as you can see, they're bringing back adventure, the adventure mechanic from Throne of Eldraine, which allows you to cast a spell as an instant or sorcery and then play it as its creature part later on. A lot of people, myself included, thought it was fucking weird that we didn't get that in AFR, but here we are. We finally got it in the second D&D set, which I think is undoing some of the ills. We'll talk about that at the end. Some of the things they got wrong with AFR a little bit. So it has plant tadpoles, blue, X, X target creatures. They don't untap during the controller's next untap step, so it's a big Frost Breath effect for limited. So don't forget, this is a limited set. If you don't know, you're drafting this and building command decks on the fly. And then its other side is a creature with an ability called, oh my god, I'm going to fuck this up, Semorphosis. Thank you, Rob. When Illithid Harvester enters the battlefield, turn any number of target tapped non-token creatures face down. They're 2/2 horror creatures. This is exactly what we've just been talking about. I won't lie to you, I hadn't read this card before we started talking about it, so it looks like we were setting ourselves up, Rob, but I had no fucking idea this was in the set yet. That is fucking awesome.
Exactly, it's like what it does. Yep.
And like mechanically, it's really cool because it's like morph creatures too, right? Flipping creatures over and stuff. So it's doing some old like weird thing within Magic. That is fucking amazing. I can't get over how well that does the thing we were just talking about, and I'm not lying to you, comment section, before someone's telling me I'm bullshitting. I didn't know this was in the set. I knew it was in the set, but I hadn't read it. I'm interested to see what flicker effects we get in the set. Like if there's some spells in the game of D&D that would have or give you a way to get rid of an Illithid parasite, would there end up being flicker effects in the game, so you can then create those like storytelling moments, right, where you use a flicker effect to undo the stealing of your party member. But I mean, again, and I might be saying this, we're about to find out. I don't think any of those have been spoiled yet, but I guess we'll see as we go on. Next up, we have OG, the Exquisite Blade, a 4-mana blue-white human monk, uncommon legendary creature 2/3. When they enter the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 2, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its control. Okay, this is a flicker effect. I'm not... I didn't do that on purpose. I knew there's a blue-white creature coming up, but I had no idea this flickered. Hell, I'd read its name earlier. What do you know what this is referencing to?
So Path of the Kensai. So this is a monk class that you can take in Baldur's Gate 2 that references the ability to basically be a Jedi, essentially. Is its thing.
Okay. But is OG like a known character at all? Obviously, the Path of the Kensai, you've spotted that. Do you know? Again, just say if you don't, because we don't.
Not to my knowledge.
Comment section, we don't know everything.
Not to my knowledge, no, and it's not something that immediately jumped out to me. So yeah.
So this must be from somewhere. Maybe it's from a weird comic. Maybe it's from an adventure module like neither of us have played. If you know in the comment section where OG originally comes from, tell us. I think the card's cool mechanically. Any flicker effect based off of spells is pretty cool. Yeah, not much more to say on it than that. And then we've got another Baldur's Gate 3 character, I believe. Raphael, Fiendish Savior. 5-mana, 4/4 Devil Noble. Flying other demons, devils, imps, and tieflings you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink, which is fucking wild, giving lifelink to red, black, devils, imps, and tieflings, but there you go. At the beginning of each end step, if a creature card was put into your graveyard from anywhere this turn, create a 1/1 red devil creature token. And when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. This card is sick. It's an interesting commander for sure. This is just one of the party members in Baldur's Gate 3, right?
He's not a party member, no. He is a mysterious stranger who appears to you one night where you're resting and offers you a way out of your earworm situation. What we know about him is very limited because the game of Baldur's Gate 3 is still in early access. So you only have a few encounters with him to begin with, and he's definitely... He's Mephistopheles, and in fact, the fact that he probably almost is D&D's Mephistopheles is almost certain, given the way that he behaves. That's my take. So yeah, he's very much the kind of he's the classic devil character.
Really cool commander though.
Yeah,
like,
super
really
cool.
interesting.
Yeah, and really nice way to sort of bring all those associated creature types together.
Yeah, I like seeing that. Like I've complained in the past that dogs and hounds need to be more similar.
Exactly.
And it's a similar thing to that. Real Sorrell Kingpin, 5-mana, blue-black, human rogue, a 2/5. Surprise, she's legendary, as most of the things we're talking about today are. Death Touch, which enters the battlefield, you take the initiative, which we'll come to in a moment. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gains Death Touch until end of turn, and if you completed a dungeon, that creature also gets +5/+0 and gains First Strike and Menace until end of turn. Rob, who the fuck is Real Sorrell? Do you know this character? I have no idea.
So, she is a Baldur's Gate crime lord. So, she's one of the kind of high-ranking members of the Thieves Guild, and has kind of an interesting, convoluted history within Baldur's Gate and in the Flaming Fist. So
this is in the first game then, right? You said Flaming Fist, this gave that clue, because they were one of the big factions in the first one, right?
Yeah, well, she is actually in Murder in Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus. So she's referenced in one of the newer games. So she...
So for those of you that aren't following too well, we're talking a lot about Baldur's Gate 1, 2, and 3. What Rob is talking about, Descent into Avernus, is actually a module, which is a source book of sorts, for the current edition of D&D, 5th edition. I'm trying to make this as accessible to non-D&D players as possible. So she's not from the Baldur's Gate video games that we keep gushing about. She's from a module.
How ready to explain this? Okay, basically, so she was related to some elements in the kind of the playtesting stuff for 5th edition. There was a thing called Murder in Baldur's Gate, which kind of was a bit of a, like I said, it's like a playtesting module that related to some of the stuff around the backstory to Baal's rise. So she is technically related to Baldur's Gate 1, but she's never referenced in the game.
Right.
And
we'll come more to Baal in a second. You're saying Ball, which I think are American.
Ball.
I'm not sure if you're right or I'm right, but when you said Ball then, for a second I was like, balls?
So she's kind of an interesting character. Bit of a, again, one of the many deep cuts that we're going to have throughout this exploration of these new cards. Very obscure character. I'm quite pleased to have her there because Murder in Baldur's Gate was interesting module. I'm not gonna lie. I ran it, and it's not without its issues.
Either way, interesting deep cut. Let's talk for a moment about taking the initiative for the MTG players and Commander players that care. More about that stuff. So the initiative is a cross between the Monarch and adventuring into the dungeon. So when you take the initiative, you get to venture into a particular dungeon. In this case, it's Undercity. I'll put it on screen now. It's got a load of things, and as you continue to venture via taking the initiative, you get to venture further into the Undercity and do some stuff. The Undercity being the deep network of Undercity beneath Baldur's Gate itself, and then the initiative is like a thing that you have, and then when you get hit by another player and they do combat damage to you, much like the old Monarch mechanic. It gets past them, they take the initiative, they begin to dive into the Undercity, and it becomes a race to get to the end of the Undercity, in essence. I think it's a really cool mechanic to add to a multiplayer game to encourage attacking. I think it's interesting to see them explore the dungeon design space again, but without giving us a fourth dungeon that makes the dungeon mechanic more unwieldy. In essence, for people who are going to complain and say this is like some weird video game level of complexity, just imagine that whenever a card says take the initiative, it basically branches into the Undercity card you're seeing on screen. It's not that complicated when you think of it that way. It does mean that you should probably carry one of these around with you because no one's going to remember what the fuck this does in a year's time. But I actually quite like it. I think it's quite an elegant piece of design that isn't going to break open Legacy or Vintage in any way. I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Rob, this one I need some help with. Not only because the card's called Robe, which is your name with an E on it, and that, I don't know why, that's a fucking terrible joke.
Wow.
But also, I'm assuming it's referencing someone, I'm assuming Elminster, but I could be wrong. Robe of the Archmagi, 3 mana blue artifact equipment. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw that many cards, which is a fucking tasty effect in Commander, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Equip for 4, or Shamans, Warlocks, and Wizards can equip it for 1. Is this a particular item within D&D, or is it just a generic Robe of the Archmagi?
So, yeah, this is a generic Robe of the Archmagi. It's a very famous, goes back quite a long way through previous editions, as basically just a piece of, it's a robe, it's a piece of equipment that a mage can wear, and it gives you very powerful buffs. It's been known to come in 3 flavors: Robe of the Good, Neutral, and Evil Archmagi, depending on your particular alignment, if you are going to be going back to those elements. But even in 5th edition, it exists as just Robe of the Archmagi. It is the premier piece of armor that you want if you're playing a wizard, and it should be delivered to you on a gold platter when you reach level 15 as a wizard if your DM is very nice.
Like a tradition almost. I also think it's interesting that you said that they've missed out the alignment elements, not to do 3 of them, or like a cycle or whatever. And like, mark my fucking words, it's another prediction for everyone, but it's a longer term one. I think D&D itself will get rid of alignments come like 6th edition, because we've already got these problems with having to go back and retcon like races not to be inherently evil and stuff. I think Wizards of the Coast, the company, want to move away from that in some capacity.
Yeah.
And this is just like I'm not saying this is like a hint at that, I'm saying it's a precursor to that.
I mean, absolutely.
I think that alignments are a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the way they treat alignment in 5th edition already is very flexible, and, you know, it kind of, it doesn't presume, and it encourages even you to kind of like develop it on your own terms, in your players' terms, which is very interesting.
Which makes a lot more sense, making people like rigidly adhere to some fucking alignment. A quick thing so people know what we're talking about. Traditionally in D&D, like old school D&D, you pick whether to be good, neutral, or evil, and then like lawful and chaotic versions of those things. Very early on, have to like role play along to that. It's dumb. Let's not dwell on it too much. But speaking of which, we're coming to Roving Harper, which actually has an element to this alignment thing. Roving Harper is a 3-mana 2/2 elf scout. And as the battlefield, draw a card. Mechanically, in Magic, white is getting more and more of these effects. Traditionally, we only got them on like Wall of Omens, which is a colour-shifted green card. Green used to get its effect much more than white ever did, and they've moved it slowly into white. We saw this with, I think it was Ancient Dwarf Cleric or something in AFR. Good to see another version of this effect, even if it is just a limited card. The interesting reason that I want to dwell on this for a second is that Harpers are a guild of druids. Rob, you can correct me on what bit I get wrong in a second. Druids that care about the balance in the world, but they often work in the shadows of actual human civilized society to fuck things up in a way that brings things back to a balance. Am I right on that?
Yeah, so no, they're not so much.
Are they always druids?
They're not always.
druids?
No, they're not always druids. Basically, they're a secret society that basically act as kind of like Batman for Faerun. That's probably the best way to
But they're not just. The status quo is still something they want to keep things the way it is, right?
Yeah, so they're sort of grounded in this kind of like this sort of noble culture of kind of, and their kind of like their justification for doing things is always kind of like incorruptible and just and right for the sake of
and for the greater good.
For the greater good, exactly. Yes, and now we're getting into some hot fuzz territory because that is very much how people perceive them, as being like they dedicate their lives to helping people in their times of need and saving things, but also they are considered to be kind of like spies and kind of undermine kind of governments, and they are seen to be kind of like almost kind of like sort of trying to be superior in a world where things are simple.
Yeah, because I remember why I'm thinking they're druids now. Is because the one playable NPC party member that you can get is Jaheira, who is a harper, or was a harper, should I say. And she also has dialogue reactions from multiple characters throughout Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, if I remember correctly, where people get shitty with her because they find out she's a harper. Yep. And there's some there's a vengeance plot in Baldur's Gate 2 that we won't spoil or go into too much. But yeah, because the harpers are considered to be some see them as heroic and others see them as meddlers, right? Yeah. The reason in my head I'm thinking druids and balance is because she's part of the druid grove as well. I'm getting things mixed up there in Baldur's Gate 2. But yeah, okay, we'll come to Jaheira more in a moment. But it's interesting that we get this like vigilante meddling in society like thing, the harpers, and they put them in white because I think that's an interesting place. That white's a weird color in Magic, right? Where we don't know exactly where they need to explore with it in terms of having villains and good guys that accentuate interesting parts of white as a color. I think the Harpers is an interesting place to take that, and I'm glad we saw them get put into white. Although we could see them in other colours too.
Yeah, well, I like that in white in the sense of like white always has this sort of sense of like superiority and kind of like education and doctrine. And in the flavor text of this cup, you can see the Harpers value peaceful coexistence, historical preservation, harmony with nature, and each day they spread their ideas a little further. So that you've got that kind of ecclesiastical kind of almost sort of religious sharing of ideas kind of suggested in that flavor text, which I feel fits a lot of white cards historically. So yeah, I think they're a good fit.
Look, I don't want to gush too much here. Both of us are quite pretty fucking excited about this fight. I rang Rob up to do this video because like I was DMing him like how cool some of these cards were. Like, this is a fucking common. This is a common that does so much in terms of like world building, fleshing things out, and attaching magic to D&D. And I'm not going to get too gushy about it, but that is fucking great. When you think that someone has like created this for Magic, I'm basically saying whoever did this did a good fucking job. Yep. Is what I'm saying.
100%.
For a common, for me to get this excited and think, fuck, that's really cool. Like, it gets me more excited again for the Warhammer stuff coming up. Because I'm like, fuck, what cool little things they can do with the commons there. Anyway, speaking of rarities and getting the wrong rarity here, Sarevok, Deathbringer, 4 mana, 3/4. Yeah, human knight, legendary again, carrying his fucking iconic helmet from the horrible CGI videos of the first game. At the beginning of each player's end step, if no permanent left the battlefield this turn, that player loses X life, where X is Sarevok's power. So he encourages slaughter and death, and he has to choose a background again. The reason he encourages slaughter and death is because he's one of the Baal spawn. Baal we're coming to, who's got a card as well. Baal is a murdered god. He's the lord of murder that died in the times of trouble, and in Baldur's Gate you play one of his spawn, and there are other spawns rocking around, Sarevok being the big bad at the end of the first game. Spoiler alert, he's the one who kills your father figure, who we're also coming to in a moment. Sarevok is the big end boss of the first Baldur's Gate. The first Baldur's Gate. I'm just saying, the first Baldur's Gate video game, everybody. And they made him a fucking uncommon, Rob. That is not fair.
I mean, he's just a party member in Baldur's Gate 2, the expansion. So
yes. So someone on Twitter pointed this out to me, and they are right. You get like a depowered version of him in the expansion pack, Throne of Baal,
yes.
right?
Yes, you do.
Which I've never played. Spoiler alert, I've never played Throne of Baal, and I've never completed Shadows of Arm as well. Just being as honest as possible about it. But still, come on. This guy was notoriously a pain in the arse, because the first Baldur's Gate isn't fair in places, right? So, like, the way I beat the first Sarevok was to cheese him. You summoned a lot of animal and undead companions. You, like, pushed him into a corner and just fireballed the shit out of him with a wand,
yes,
right?
Yeah, that is the go-to strategy for him. But the interesting thing about Sarevok is that he, for all of his bluster and might and power that he has in Baldur's Gate 1, like, he falls from grace so hard, and he's so irrelevant by the time you get to the end of the Baldur's Gate saga. I kind of think that it makes sense for him to be an uncommon, because he is presented as this big bad end guy character, but realistically he really isn't. And in Baldur's Gate, even in Baldur's Gate, like he's not even mentioned or suggested until you get to Baldur's Gate, and then there's a little bit of foreshadowing around him, and then he kind of like he starts to take over this sort of like backseat Machiavellian character who takes the Iron Throne and is working in the background a lot, which suggests again like his like understated status. So maybe an uncommon kind of thematically kind of works.
Oh, fucking hell. You've actually convinced me, but what the fuck? I was not expecting that. Because, no, you're right, because, again, perhaps his... in the original Baldur's Gate, like I said, the game needs an end boss, right? So maybe in a video game way, they make him a bit too overpowered and you have to cheese him. But in reality, like, he is a background character. He's, like, undoing the seat of power within Baldur's Gate, right? Like, the council, I think, are the ones who task you to go to... Doesn't he do a terrorist plot and blow something up? And then you have to go fight him in the sewers or something? It's something along those lines,
he overtakes the whole... thing, because he's amassing power against them because he takes over the mining stuff, doesn't he? And that's...
he's basically like Guy Fawkes and a union leader, but also a mass murderer. Like interesting character in some ways, I guess. But you are right, like he is just a guy. And I hadn't thought about it. At the end of Baldur's Gate 1, you're what, level 14 or something? What's the level cap in the first Baldur's Gate, or the average end level?
12, I think.
So I guess by the end of Baldur's Gate 2, or the expansion, you're like level 28 or something, right? You're quite high level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're like level 40 by the end of Baldur's Gate 2.
Oh, 40? Fucking hell. So I guess, Sarevok's just a footnote in your career at that point. You've convinced me. I didn't think I'd come into this convinced. You convinced me.
The one
People saw me raging on Twitter. I have changed my mind.
The one thing I do like about this is that it allows you to choose a background, which suggests the idea that you can choose a background for Sarevok, which is interesting because he has his backstory is very specifically articulated as to like how he grew up and how he ended up being where he came from, and both the criminal past and noble heritage kind of both fit him thematically as a character, which I think is a really nice little touch.
But later on, Rob, one of the backgrounds would be like snake handler or tightrope walker.
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean, that's more Fallout than it is. That's more Fallout and GURPS than it is D&D. But imagine that tightrope walking Sarevok. That'd be gas. On to a quick one then. Summon Undead, 5 mana. You may mill 3 cards and return a card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a Zombify style reanimation effect. I'm just shocked that Summon Undead wasn't in AFR. Am I right in saying that they wasn't in AFR?
It was not in AFR, and it's a crime that it wasn't.
It's just such an iconic thing to do in D&D.
I think the problem is that Animate Dead already exists as a card in Magic way before any of this, and Animate Dead is the go-to, like it's the system one thinking of that kind of spell in D&D. So,
Moving on, Tarrasque 2.0. They fucked it up the first time, Rob. How do you feel about Look Upon the Tarrasque, a 5 mana instant which allows you get to choose one of 2 ways to respond to a Tarrasque, which is... I've got problems with this already, right? Okay, I'm going to read the rest of the card, but hang on. The whole point of a Tarrasque, right, is a puzzle monster. You're not meant to, like, brute force it. You're meant to figure out ways to stop it. And a puzzle monster suggests that when the DM says you look upon the Tarrasque, you're giving a multitude of options. To make it down to a binary seems not in line with how you deal with a Tarrasque in actual D&D. I think this should have been a command. Anyway, it says choose one. Run and hide. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you and creatures you control this turn. A very powerful effect on an instant in a 4-player limited commander pod. This is going to blow people out all over the shop. Also, gather your courage. Target creature gets +5/+5. Gains indestructible until end of turn. All creatures your opponent controls are able to block that creature this turn. Do so, which is a very powerful effect too, because you're just going to wrath someone's ball with a big creature. But Rob, I feel like they fucked the Tarrasque twice.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, this could literally be like a dragon descends and run and hide, gather your courage. Works exactly the same way and doesn't spoil the fact that the Tarrasque is, as you say, a puzzle monster who's supposed to... You're supposed to bring all of your creative thinking in terms of taking down a Tarrasque or dealing with Tarrasque or doing something with a Tarrasque. Like, for example, very famously, destroying Orcus's wand is a thing that requires a Tarrasque for you to be able to do. So much opportunity there, so much potential, and they've completely fucked it. And all of this, like I said, it could have been a Dragon Descent.
I guess... I love that as well. Like, a Dragon Descends or some variation of that Ancient Dragon or whatever would have been much better. Also, that's interesting that you said... Also, fuck, why is this green? The Tarrasque is green. Is the idea of looking upon a Tarrasque green?
Well, it makes me think of some of those green cards. What was that green card from... I'm going to
Oh, Return of the Wild Speaker. And that's
Return of the Wild Speaker and the one from Theros.
Green's Colour Pie. Green's Colour Pies do whatever the fuck you want. Have some modal spell. But in reality, like, looking upon the Tarrasque and choosing to run and hide or gather your courage, if
anything, it's red, right?
I was going to say white. I'm like...
White doesn't run and hide.
But it does gather your courage, or it tactically retreats.
Yeah, true.
Right? Because running and hiding... Anyway, moving on. I think they fucked it. Tymora's Invoker. I was bringing this one up as a 2-mana 1/3 Orc Rogue. Has Sleight of Hand, which is a skill in D&D to an extent. 8 mana, draw 2 cards. A couple of things to bring up here. Firstly, it's an orc. We haven't seen a whole lot of orcs yet in these spoilers as the first one. Secondly, it's a blue orc. I don't think we've ever had a blue orc. Thirdly, and most excitingly, I think in the limited environment, having 8 mana sinks to do cool stuff, similar to the Invokers of the original Zendikar block, is fucking cool. Who is Tymora? Is that one of the gods?
Yeah,
right?
Tymora is the goddess of luck.
Oh, may Lady Luck smile upon you.
So Tymora is Lady Luck, the goddess of good fortune, mostly associated with halflings.
I was about to say no. I'm pronouncing it wrong. Right? I've heard Tymora. When we've played D&D before, you have invoked the name of Tymora in certain things for halflings and stuff. I'm calling her Tymora. That's probably wrong. Tymora, right?
Tymora, the official pronunciation is actually Tymora. Is the apparently according to the Forgotten Realms fandom wiki.
Maybe we've both been saying it wrong for like a decade.
Maybe, but the Smiling Lady, she's good on coins, and she's well loved by bards, rogues, halflings, and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. They've got an orc to represent this character, to represent this god rather. I think it's it's a really good indication of where D&D is heading in the future to kind of diversify those elements.
Yeah, I agree. Another blue card now, Volo. Itinerant Scholar, 3 mana, 2/3 human wizard. When he enters the battlefield, create Volo's Journal, which is a legendary colorless artifact token with hexproof, and whenever you cast a creature spell, note one of its creature types that hasn't been noted this way on this artifact already. It's a fucking mouthful. Welcome to modern magic, everybody. But it's, to be fair, I like this kind of thing, because once you've read it once, you know how it works. It clicks, it makes sense, unlike some of the cards we saw last set. That made no fucking sense when you read them. 2 mana and tap, draw a card for each creature type noted of a target permanent you control named Volo's Journal, and choose a background. So in short, everybody, to explain that, because there's a lot of words and I've also read it very quickly with a COVID-addled lungs, you make a book, he documents creatures that he discovers along the way, and then you tap him to draw cards and draw knowledge, as what draw cards means in Magic, for each creature that he has seen of a different type. Also gets a background. This is very Volo, because Volo is a documenter of adventures and monsters.
Yes, and this is more Volo than the previous Volo. So the Volo also appears as a blue-green Simic legendary creature.
Yeah, another value engine, which I thought his mechanics were okay last time.
They were okay, but this is way more thematic and much more like him. I've never been a fan of Volo personally, so I've always found him very tedious and annoying.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good representation of the character, and I think it's a good value card that's not going to break Commander.
He's part of those the pantheon of characters like Drizzt and Elminster that I don't care huge amounts about, but I know a lot of D&D fans and tabletop RPGers do. The other thing I was going to say about him is that I think him and Minsk are the only 2 characters that we've seen so far that have had 2 iterations already by the time we've gone to the second D&D set, which I think is interesting. Probably indicative that Volo, Minsk, and probably Elminster as well, if you put them in that pantheon, are the characters that are like they have the most like recognizability in marketing and shit to nerds.
Yeah, which we can come back around to this issue or question or thought later, because I don't exactly agree with that, and I think there are better candidates, but we can discuss that at a future point.
Actually, let's fucking talk about it now, because that is an interesting point, because I don't give a shit about Volo. I think a lot of my nerdy friends who are like only like tangentially like engaged with D&D would have no fucking idea. But he does show up fucking everywhere. Like, he's in Baldur's Gate 3, isn't he? Like, as a random person you stumble upon,
and you have to rescue him several times.
Yeah, it's almost like... Maybe he's one of those characters that someone at Wizards... Someone who's left over from the TSR days, perhaps, is so in love with and feels like it's so much part of D&D's like fabric and identity. Does he just outside of the Forgotten Realms? Is he only a Forgotten Realms character?
I don't know. Like, it's odd. Like, he appears in Baldur's Gate and Baldur's Gate 2, and so he's everywhere, right? He is everywhere. He's omnipresent. But I really don't see the appeal, or I don't really see the fact that he's so kind of loved. Like, I've never seen him as that kind of character. Like,
maybe we're the wrong generation. Maybe there's a certain module or a certain book that made people fall in love with him. Someone can tell us in the comment section below. It just isn't for us. Right?
yeah, I guess so.
I do think it's weird that he got a second card before. Well, Dritz is probably in this set again. Then let's be real.
Yeah, I mean,
but like Dritz is the one where, again, I don't give a fuck about him, but that's the one like has like New York Times best-selling novels and shit attached to his name.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Dritz and Jarlax, his alternate, his evil version.
I don't even know. You said that name. I don't know who that is.
He's basically he's evil Dritz is basically his thing. He's a drow. He has a cool hat.
Right.
He's very cool. But like even things like Cadley hasn't had a card yet, and he's like a real known entity in the novels and stuff. Like
I mean, hold your horses a little bit. We have got plenty of space. We've only seen like 15 cards so far, so we'll probably will see more. A couple of quick ones. White Plume Adventurer, 3 mana, rare, 3/3. As a battlefield, take the initiative. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, untap a creature you control. If you've completed a dungeon, untap all creatures you control. Part of a Seedborn mutant on white card is pretty interesting. Originally, this is the one I was going to talk about the initiative with, but we've already gone across that. I'm just going to highlight that this is a white creature that has White Plume Adventurer in its name. White Plume being an old module, right? Is there anything more to say about that?
Yeah, Adventure to White Plume Mountain is basically the Disneyland of adventures. It's a dungeon crawl that has a lot of very physical actions related to it. So it's a really fun module, and it's been translated into various different versions from its original. This is like we're talking like OG D&D here. It's been translated into every single edition, and if you haven't played it, play it. It's in Tales.
It's in 5th
yet? Yeah, it's in 5th. It's in Tales of the.
What's in Yawning Portals?
Yeah, Yawning Portals one. White Plume Mountain, great. It's got riddles. It's got action. It's got physicality. It's good.
For viewers that don't know, there are some like really iconic D&D like modules that constantly they were like written by Gygax. Was this a Gygax one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are ones that are like written by the original creator of D&D, and they get re-updated and reimagined per edition. We're on 5th edition of D&D right now after like 30 plus years or whatever, right? So it's like Tomb of Annihilation, Tomb of Horrors, White Plume Adventures. There's a load of them. I can't name them off the top of my head, but they're all ones that like have different reiterations and stuff.
Yeah.
The next spoiler is not very exciting. 4 mana, 1/4 flying. When it ends the battlefield, you take the initiative. This is a bird rogue called Arachokura Sneak. I think I pronounced it correctly. The only reason I bring it up is that the Arachokura, are the bird people of D&D. I'm not sure if we saw him in AFR. And
you got to think about them.
They fuck me off because my last 2 parties, someone was trying to play an Arachokura, and like the ability to just be able to fucking fly just ruins half the puzzles that are in existing like published stuff, like Tomb of Annihilation. There's a load of early stuff where you just you have to like fucking turn off their flying. They're dumb. It's stupid. I think Adventurers League doesn't allow them. They like the F&M version of D&D. Is that right?
Pete
told me.
Because of the flying element, you need to be more balanced.
It just fucks everything up.
It does.
Yeah,
because you know what you're doing. Up. It's super easy to cheat.
So I fucking love bird people in other games. I love bird people in Magic, but fuck the Arachokura. Next up, we have an Arcane Signet reprint. I just want to point out this is really cool to see it reimagined as. Wow, it's a ring, right? I guess Signet. It's obviously a Signet ring 4, but yeah, and I think it's really cool that it's now a Signet on a ring. I don't know if the original Arcane Signet had a ring on it, but obviously then it makes sort of like a bit of a homage to Sol Ring in a sense that creates this like sort of like intertextual web of references. There's some flavor text from Keon Horizon Walker. Does that mean anything to you?
Nothing new to me. No, I don't recognise that.
All right, that's a comment section 1. If you know who Keon is, if your name's Keon, comment down below. Next up, I think this is a quick one because it's another Baldur's Gate 3 character. Astarion the Decadent, a 6 mana vampire elf rogue. Death Touch lifelink, 4/4. Beginning of your end step, choose 1. You can feed. Target opponent loses life equal to the amount of life they lost this turn. Or friend. You gain life equal to the amount of life gained this turn. Holy fuck. Does this combo with like Exquisite Blood or Sanguine Bolt?
Almost absolutely. Yes. I haven't checked it, but obviously it clearly does. He's very powerful. He's very sexy. Everybody loves Astarion. There's so much fan art for this lovely, confused, sexy chap. And I mean, love him or hate him, he's a good one. And I think this these options that you've got for him with the flavor text, I think works really well, because there are two ways you can take him, is to kind of encourage his vampirism if you're evil, or encourage him to embrace the fact that he can go out in daylight as a friend. So I think this works on a number of levels. I think this is a home run.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't think it was infinite with Sanguine Exquisite Blade on first look. I'm just looking at the cards now. I'm like, nah, it's a trigger. It triggers them, but then all life gain effects does. Cool card. Babalisaga Night Witch, 3 mana, 3/3, legendary human warlock. Tap it, sacrifice up to 3 permanents. If there were 3 or more card types among the sacrificed permanents, each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life and draw 3 cards. Quite a cool and powerful effect. Do you know who this is?
Babalisaga, yes. She will be found in Curse of Strahd. She has a flying...
What's Curse of Strahd for the people at home? It's D&D Innistrad.
Basically, yeah, it's D&D Innistrad, yeah, basically. It's a vampire story, and she's one of the characters in the 5th edition version. She has a flying cauldron and a walking house. And she's one of the very most powerful hags. It is suggested that also, and I like this a lot, that she is Ravel Puzzlewell's, one of Ravel Puzzlewell's many personas across various planes. So if you want a Planescape reference, there's your Planescape reference for this evening.
Baldur's Gate, a quite literal gate called Baldur's Gate. Is there a Baldur's Gate within Baldur's Gate?
Yes, so Baldur's Gate is it's a city made by, founded by Baldur, who's one of the very old Forgotten Realm heroes, and there is a city has a big old gate in it, and it's called Baldur's Gate. So yeah, that's the one you walk through in Baldur's Gate 1 as you walk up that long thing.
I just thought the gate was long gone. I don't know why I thought that. This is a gate that creates mana of any one color. X, you tap it for 2 and tap it. X mana of any one color, where X is the number of other gates you control. It's a mana fixer and mana ramper for the gates deck. It comes into play untapped, but it is legendary. A very cool card, honestly. And I guess it's always good to see a little bit of gate love, just randomly for gates decks. Next up, speaking of Baldur's Gate cuts, is Baal, Lord of Murder, a literal god. A god who is dead by the time you start your adventures in Baldur's Gate in the first Baldur's Gate CRPG. He's a Jund, so black, red and green, and 2 legendary creature god. As long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, he is indestructible. So a bit of Death Shadow life reduction thematic thing going on. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and goad it. It is a 4/4 that promotes murder, and that leads to more murder, like a ever downward spiral. Interesting, really, because I'm not aware of any... I assume there's been D&D modules where Baal is alive. I only know him as this background character that is like your gene seed, your father figure that you have been spawned from. For people at home who don't know, the Baldur's Gate video games, at least the first 2, the third one will tie in some way, we don't really know yet. But the first 2, you are Baal spawn, which are like, they are seeds of Baal as he's trying to re-manifest into the physical world, where he's like laying out his mortal progeny, essentially. What have I missed, Rob, and why is this thing a physical creature?
Okay, so Baal becomes a god. Baal is a man who becomes a god, and I think that is the thing that they're trying to translate here in this card. So before his ascension to godhood, he was just a power-hungry adventurer who tried to steal the power of the god.
I did not know that.
Duragor. There are a couple of novels dedicated to his adventures. He hooked up with a couple of other ne'er-do-wells, and as a trio, they succeeded in killing a god and assuming parts of his portfolio. And Baal became the god of murder, and other things happened as a result of that.
Oh shit, so are the Times of Trouble because they killed gods?
No, the Time of Troubles occurs because Baal prophesied, and so realised that he was going to die, and then created his spawn and progeny as a result, and then we spawned the Time of Troubles.
Wait, did he realise, or did so saith the wise Orlando?
So saith the wise Orlando. Indeed.
Yeah.
But yeah, he knew that his end was coming, and then fucked his spawn all over the place so he could come back to life, is basically. And him reassembling himself is the Time of Troubles.
Also, did he fuck his progeny everywhere? I always got the impression that they were like, he had dropped them from the sky almost. Like, people were just born randomly with this seed inside them. I didn't realise it was a real Zeus scenario where he's going around fucking mortals. Do we know, or was that just a turn of phrase from you?
So it's not very well explained, but I know that...
Okay.
So the end boss of the expansion pack of Baldur's Gate 2 is a literal priest of Baal. So and the dialogue that character articulates to the player is that it was a little bit more consummated than otherwise. So
young, innocent 10-year-old Vince playing his CRPG demos on a PC Gamer Disc thought that it was, like, metaphorical. And here's, like, jaded 33-year-old Vince being like, oh, wow, he actually is a fuck monster.
Yeah, but I mean, there is a suggestion that he did impregnate many actual mortal women. So, you know, it's swings and roundabouts. But I think as a character... As a card, I think I've always felt that he fit Jund really well, and I'm really glad they did make him Jund rather than just black, because there's a lot more nuance to him than people think. And I think, yeah, it's...
We also got a Invoker card for him, a 3-mana 4/2. This is literally... It's an interesting... It's Baal's Invoker, and it's referencing the Invoker cycle from original Zendikar. It's another one with the ability for 8 mana to deal 4 damage to each opponent, which is a very good effect in a multiplayer Commander Cube to try and close out the game. Interestingly, keyworded with a flavour keyword of Scorching Ray, which is a D&D spell. Not a huge amount to say to this, apart from the fact that it's obviously a preacher or priest of Baal that is spitting hot rays everywhere, trying to invoke his favour.
Yeah, interesting one, because there are certain versions of D&D where if you worship a certain god, you get a certain set of spells associated with it. Some of those are, as a cleric, wizard spells that you can kind of translate into your ability to cast spells. Scorching Ray, not something that fits in Baal's pantheon, because he doesn't. He's not fire as his.
Wait, can shamans cast Scorching Ray in D&D?
Shamans are 4th edition and wouldn't worship Baal anyway.
Well, you could, dude. You're the DM. Let me roleplay here. Right? I want to be a Baal worshipping shaman, but this creature's a shaman. So I was just wondering if that was where it's getting access to Scorching Ray.
Yeah, I mean potentially, but I mean because his domains are like death, destruction, evil, retribution, hatred, and I think law. I think he is lawful evil. Then he's not going to get access to Scorching Ray in the classical sense. So.
Okay, fair enough. Command Tower. I'm just bringing it up because it's in the set, which is cool and everything. But it mentions Durlag's Tower. It's filled with enough treasure to last a lifetime, enough traps to drastically shorten that lifetime. Durlag's Tower is one of the... basically, the original Baldur's Gate was one of the first like big CRPGs around D&D, so it tried to do a few things like traditional D&D modules have done. Durlag's Tower, if I remember correctly, is the big trap-infested treasure trove one, right? It's kind of like bring a thief or you're dead,
yep.
Right? That's Durlag's Tower?
Absolutely, yep. So, Durlag's Tower is, it's endgame content, basically, for Baldur's Gate 1. It's a very famous dungeon, both in lore and in gameplay. The Extra Credits YouTube channel did a really good episode on the level design of Durlag's Tower, because it explains perfectly how to design a dungeon. Because everything about that dungeon signposts everything that you need to do very, very well, and it leads you through all the individual elements. And as a piece of game design, it is amazing, and it's really cool to see it here. And looking in this version of the art as well, looking at it in its conical tower version, which is something that you see in Baldur's Gate as a... You can get to Durlag's Tower very, very early on in Baldur's Gate 1, and it looks very imposing. It's full of, like, surrounded by dangerous monsters, so it says, like, come back here later, because the monsters will instantly kill you. But it has this allure, this pull, and I think that the art really kind of represents that, and I think it's done really well.
Yeah, some deep cuts to those fucking games that we keep going on about. Cultist of the Absolute. 1 black mana, legendary enchantment background. It's rare. Earlier I was going to ask you who the Absolute was. Is it Baal?
The Absolute. So, the Absolute is referenced to Baldur's Gate 3, and we don't know what it is yet. But it's something to do with Illithid.
Oh, sick! Oh, that's some cool, like, foreshadowing, though. That's one interesting thing. We're engaging with D&D through the game of Magic, and this is now referencing a video game that isn't finished yet. That is some cool shit.
Yeah, so in Baldur's Gate 3, there are so basically the idea of the earworms has kind of spread throughout the region, and people who have the power of the earworm are claimed to worship this being called the Absolute. Anything more than that, we don't know. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, we've met people on either side who worship that as part of playing Baldur's Gate 3. So, yeah, we will find out. And I love that it is a legendary enchantment as the idea that it is a concept rather than a god, which is very cool.
Next up, we have Fireball, which they finally put into a D&D set and they missed last time. Like I said, correcting some of the blunders that they did last time. I think that's interesting. And then we're coming to what the other correction that I wanted to talk about, which is that I feel like they didn't do enough named characters from famous Forgotten Realms stuff last time. They did do a lot of references, but they missed a lot of stuff from the video games. We got Minsk, and that was pretty much it. And this time around, they've gone fucking ham, Rob. It's to the point that they've got characters that don't even... Like, I don't even know if Jon Irenicus has any links to Baldur's Gate, the city, because he's from Baldur's Gate 2, which you wake up in fucking Athkatalar, in Arm, to the south, because Irenicus has stolen you away to there. So this guy is Jon Irenicus, 4 mana 3/3, black and blue, elf wizard, which is actually a spoiler for the game, right? Because you don't know he's an elf initially until much later. So spoiler alert already. At the beginning of your end step, target opponent gains control up to one target creature you control, put 2+1/+1 counters on it, and tap it. It's goaded for the rest of the game, which is mechanically interesting for Magic, because we don't see that very often. And it gains, this creature can't be sacrificed. And whenever the creature you own but don't control attacks, you draw a card. So he gets to install puppets in amongst people. I just want to explain that, although I've never finished Shadows of Arm, the second Baldur's Gate 2 game, I fucking love Jon Irenicus, primarily for his voice acting, and just how creepy and weird the whole setup is.
The child of Baal has awoken. It is time for more experiments. The pain will only be passing. You should survive the process. Interesting. You have much untapped power. Do you even realize your potential?
He is the big bad guy that kidnaps you. He tortures you. He's trying to get your potential out as a Baal spawn. He actually awakens your ability to become like a slayer of Baal, like an extra ability and stuff like that. He steals your, at the time you don't know this, but another like half sibling who's another Baal spawn. And then it turns out like he's linked to the elves. He's half sister to like the vampire bad guy in the game. And he's just an incredibly powerful wizard who absolutely fucks when you first see him fight. He's just killing coward wizards all over the shop. It's a bit of a shame that he's not that powerful here as a card. But Rob, what's going on with the puppetry stuff? Is that in cloning people and putting people into positions of power and shit?
Not so much. So first of all, shout out to David Warner, who I believe does the voice for...
Yes, he is the voice
for Irenicus that you love so much. I think mostly it's around this idea that he kind of... His role in the story is to manipulate you into doing the things that he wants, and he does the same thing to the Drow, and he does the same thing to Bodhi, and does the he completely takes over the asylum, so that probably doesn't count. But like his whole thing, he is the master manipulator. He's the man behind the curtain, the puppet master pulling the strings, because all the things that you do in terms of building up your kind of power in against him, Jon Irenicus realizes that because one of the first things he says to you is that it's very interesting. You have a lot of untapped power, and so therefore what he wants to do.
Potential, Rob. He says untapped potential.
You have much untapped power.
Then he wants to unlock that in you, and so the whole point of the first half of the game is that he's manipulating you into getting to yourself into a position where you unlock that power, which is when you become the Slayer. Spoiler alert for a game that's 20 years old. A
game that I've never finished, ironically.
So I think this works really well for him because he is one of those like classic yes, you have to fight him one-on-one at the end, but even when you fight him in the asylum, he summons a whole lot of like replicas and people to fight for him rather than fighting himself, and he is very much this kind of sort of puppet master figure who is kind of like driving towards his own ends that are personal to himself, but very much a case of like he uses other people to
Yeah, that's fucking sick. I think it's also interesting that this highlights the limitations in Magic slightly in like sort of representing this stuff. It's a famous case of custom card forums trying to make a Superman or a fucking, what's the main character from Dragon Ball Z called again?
Goku.
That's it. I'm blaming COVID for that one. Goku or Superman, you can't really make a Magic card of them because it's very hard to represent their power level and this sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. I mean, look
And
how
that's
many
the same-
words are on this card. Like, it's taken a lot.
Well, but that's only portraying the perhaps more interesting element of his character, like you're saying, this master manipulator man behind the curtain. What it doesn't show, and it struggles to show, and I think the Elminster card shows this as well, which I don't think we're going to talk about today because I can't. Fuck Elminster, but is that you can't represent a level 30 or level 40 wizard in like traditional second edition D&D on a card very well, because they're so ridiculously powerful. There's so many tools at their disposal. Like when Irenicus gets attacked by the Cloud Wizards, he has like a spell sequence one that stops time, disintegrates two of them, gives him hardened skin. Like, you cannot show this stuff on a Magic card. And we're going to see this with Warhammer as well, where like Abaddon we've already had spoiled, and Abaddon is only a 5/5, where Abaddon in the game and in canon can fight pretty much anything one-on-one in the universe, yet he will get crushed by any vehicle that's a 6/6 or a 7/7. It just shows a limitation to Magic that I find very interesting, and it's not me like criticizing Magic, because any game system is going to be like this. All game systems break down when you really push them, but I just find that interesting, because to me he's always been this incredibly high level wizard that you have to aspire to beat, and high level wizards are hard to beat, right? Same with Ancient Dragons and
Yeah,
such.
absolutely. And this just goes to show kind of the complexity and the balance between playability and representation. And yeah, how you can only push things so far.
But it's cool that they've gone for the story beat instead. That's probably the best thing to take away from this.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
It's like figure out the mechanics of someone's morals or powers or abilities is far more interesting than like how powerful a high level wizard or a Superman would be in terms of power and toughness and difficulty to remove. You know?
Definitely.
Yeah. To go on to his next thing, Irenicus' Vile Duplication, a 4-mana sorcery. Creature tokens that create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except that the token has flying and isn't legendary if that creature is legendary. I thought this was referencing his clones that he made of his long dead wife, but this has flying. So is this something I'm not familiar with from the game?
I think this is a mechanical thing to make it good in limited, and was stapled on because Irenicus' Vile Duplication is the jar people that we see in Irenicus' dungeon.
Of course it is.
Who be ye servants of the master type stuff. And you will serve him better in his form. It's not actual a quote that he says in Baldur's Gate 2. And so
I
think they
so
could.
He doesn't just clone his dead wife, does he? He has a lot of underlings that he's stuck in jars because they've pissed him off or upset him, and then he's like his whole thing is experimenting on people, right, and trying to change them in some way. So yeah, and you engage with some of those characters early on, and some of them don't even have eyes anymore. He's like removed their eyes or grown them away from having eyes, and you only talk to them. I forgot about that. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. So yeah, I would have liked something a little bit more better in the flavor text here, but I think as a card, I think it definitely feels like it's a limited tool that has Irenicus.
You're fucking right as well, because he has some great lines they could have used, right? You like the thing I just like corrected you on, where like you have so much untapped potential. Like the delivery of that line. Hopefully I've used it in the video already. I'll find it for here. There's so much good flavor text they could have used there, which is a shame. The fact that the creature has so many fucking words in it for Irenicus as well, meaning they couldn't fit flavor text in, is a little bit annoying considering he has some of the better dialogue in the game, but what can you do? Jaheira's Respite, 5 mana, instant. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of creatures attacking you. Put those cards on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn. It is a strange ramp spell that smells faintly of Settle the Wreckage, but doesn't remove any creatures, but fogs as well. This is a druidic spell of Jaheira, your main druidic companion in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, other than Sund. Is there something later in the story beats that makes this make more sense?
Not really, no. She's a druid fighter in Baldur's Gate 2. So
yes, she's dual class.
There is the combat element there, but other than that, I think, there's not a lot else to say about this one.
I guess she's like the main party healer. No, that's not even true, because there are clerics in the game, Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to me, and as I hadn't finished the game, I was like, maybe as a ending plot point. Jaheira's Respite. I mean, don't forget her husband Khalid is at the end of the beginning. He's a main party character in the first game, and the second one you find him splayed out and dismembered on a table because Irenicus has experimented on him, which sets Jaheira off on a very different path. Her character drastically changes in the second one because she is bitter and angry and upset that could happen, and it makes her question her like druidic order and stuff. It really does. Yeah. I thought maybe a respite would be her seeing her husband again in the afterlife or something.
Yeah, but I mean maybe this is more
sense.
Her in Baldur's Gate 1 mode, right, where she is the classic healer version of herself. So
Ah, okay, that's fair. Because obviously this is all throughout different time periods, I assume. I assume they're not bringing all these characters back for a big battle of Baldur's Gate. That's kind of nonsense. Gorion, Rob. Gorion, the Wise Mentor. A Bant, green, white, and blue, 3/4 human wizard. Vigilant, whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. He is the Wise Mentor of Candlekeep. He is the guy who trains you initially and then is murdered by Sarevok, although you don't know that at the time that it's Sarevok, and sets everything in motion for the two Baldur's Gate games. The mechanical entity of him here is that he develops and grows and mentors adventurers to go out into the world. Like Jaheira was also mentored by him, if I remember correctly. And a few other characters
is correct.
too.
Yep.
So yeah,
and Imoen.
So he duplicates adventures. Oh, and Imoen, yeah, of course. So it's just him helping people go on their adventures, and it's all lovely and interesting.
It is
and
really
cool.
limited gameplay wise
nice.
because they don't really make because the adventure cards are not like. Brazen Burrow is powerful, but other than that, there was going on there.
He's very much a limited commander, and it is a shame that he is a little bit insular, a little bit, I guess.
I would have liked him to have been a planeswalker because he is one of the most powerful wizards in D&D in the world at the time. So because he's a former harper.
No, they could make him a fucking planeswalker. They had to make room for Boo and Minsk drop. Let's talk about that right now, right this second. It's a spoiler we've already had. I'm not going to dwell on exactly what it does. But Minsk in this set is a fucking planeswalker. He's got a second card already before any of these other ones have, because he's popular in the comic books and he was one of the most quotable characters from the original games. I think the tragedy of all this, Rob, is A, making a ranger berserker into a planeswalker is dumb anyway. But 2, is that there's no room for flavor text on a planeswalker
that has the
barring him
best
being your
quotes.
commander.
Yeah,
you can't get any fucking quotes. This card is so stupid. Really not a fan.
No.
And then you wanted to talk about Abdel Adrian, Gorion's Ward, 5-mana, 4/4 legendary creature, human warrior. When it hits the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you control until he leaves the battlefield. Oh, interesting. I like this. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each permanent exile this way. And he has background. You want to talk about him specifically for a reason?
Yeah, do you know who this character is?
Is he meant to be the main character of Baldur's Gate?
He is the main character of Baldur's Gate. He is the Godspawn, or the Balspawn.
I don't like it.
The sun. He is this. This is who you're supposed
from
to
the novelization.
play.
Is that what it's from? Is it from the novelization?
Not from the novelization, but from the kind of broader mythos of the game.
I kind of hate that.
There's references to him in various things, and again, in various novels. He's the Godspawn, and he's also, ironically, he's referenced in Planescape Torment, the character who's the nameless one, calls himself Abdel, I believe, as a bit of a joke to this nameless, faceless character, who's basically that character. That's the main character of Baldur's Gate. That's who you're supposed to be playing as Baldur's Gate.
Fucking hell, his name is
dude with sword and other sword.
Like white dude with sword too. It's just so generic. I hate. Mechanically I thought it was interesting because I noticed that Abdul was mentioned. Not Abdul, sorry, Abdel. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Was mentioned in the flavor text of the Gorion card, and I thought it was just some cut. I didn't realize it was a cut to literally.
Yep.
Oh, wait, the main character, the fucking Balspawn, he's an uncommon again.
He is indeed, yeah.
I guess it's a certain part of his life. I hate it. Moving on. Quickly, Merkel, Abzan, black, white, and green, and 4/7/5 God. As long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, Merkel, Lord of Bones, is indestructible. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token as a copy of that card, except as an enchantment, and loses all of a card types, which is pretty cool. Is this one of the other parts of the God powers that was shared up when Baal killed?
Yeah, so the thing I want to reference to this, and the reason I brought it up here today, is that Baal and Merkel share the same thing because they are one of what's called the Big Three, between Bane, Merkel, and Baal. So I would expect a Bane god to appear somewhere in this set because they have the same thing with as long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, they have indestructible. So kill stuff or start to die, then they become more powerful. So yeah, Merkel, one of the Big Three. It's referenced in Baldur's Gate 3 very briefly as an unknown god, which is interesting because he's a very old god and the timeline has moved on quite a long way. But if Merkel is here and Baal is here, I expect Bane to be here as well with the same mechanic.
Interesting. And as a point you bring up as well, what we should highlight is that all this talk of like Gorion and this stupid Abdel character that I hate, and all this stuff in Baldur's Gate 2 is how far in the past from Baldur's Gate 3? Is it 1,000 years?
It's a long time. I don't know exactly how long, but there's been there's the Spell Plague and the Sundering that happens in between basically what is canonically Baldur's Gate 2 and 5th edition. So. And
then you've got Minsk and Boo, who are like, they were a statue at some point, and now it's like it might not be the original Minsk and Boo that are running around in current conflicts.
Yeah, they did a Captain America thing where they jumped in forward in time through random reasons.
But one of the theories is he's not even jumped through in time. It's like a manifestation of his legend or something, right? That's like one of the other.
There's a book out there
origins.
somewhere who's getting really excited and projecting. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's why Boo sometimes has powers in some comic books, but in the original games was just a hamster.
Yeah.
Who is Liara Portyr, the 5-mana 5/3 human soldier? Whenever you attack spells you cast from exile this turn, cost X less to cast, where X is the number of players being attacked. Exile top X cards from your library. At the end of your turn, you may cast spells from among them that are exiled this way. This crazy bunch of text to give you card advantage and red-white attacks matters. Who is this?
So she is a character who's referenced very heavily in the Descent into Avernus storyline, but essentially she is the leader of the Flaming Fist, which are the mercenaries from the first Baldur's Gate game, but they're still around now. Exactly, they are Baldur's Gate police, and she is the commander of that group. So for all the it's a ghoul eat you world out there. Follow my orders if you want to survive. She's not 100% down with killing undead. She's more of a case of kind of making sure that the those who sit highly in Baldur's Gate get their not disturbed. So
she's just basically a big cop. She's a PMC leading.
Yep. So
cool.
Yeah.
But I mean,
interesting. And the Flaming Fist are very important, and they've done a lot of things. They've got a lot of nuances over the years as they develop as an organisation, from like literally a mercenary group to a more established police force to something that's a bit more evangelical, as it is kind of moving in the current sense. So yeah, she's an important character that represents a very important element of.
Cool. And then we've got 2 more cards coming, and then we're going to talk about lands real quick. Mazzy, True Sword Paladin, is a Naya-coloured red, white, and green, one colourless, 3/4 halfling knight. Whenever an enchanted creature attacks one of your opponents, it gets +2/+0 and gains trample until the end of your turn. Whenever an aura you control is put into the graveyard from your battlefield, exile it until the end of your next turn. You may cast that card. Mazzy is the fighter paladin that you find trapped in a dungeon, Furcrax dungeon, right? The dragon?
No, Mazzy is in the Shadow Lord's dungeon.
That's it. Yes,
and she is not a paladin because she's a halfling. She cannot be a paladin. She is a warrior or a fighter, and she desperately.
Doesn't she have spells?
Nope, no spells, nothing. But her character is she desperately wants to be a paladin, and she's not able to. And the reason she's not able to, being a halfling fighter, she can't be a paladin because the game rules literally limit her race from being paladins. And so this is like an absolute wonderful kind of vindication of her character, that she's now able to be a true paladin, because that is what she knew in her heart that she wanted to be, and now that is realised on a magic card. And I think that is very cool and very special and super awesome.
That's wicked. Wait, I swear to God, doesn't she enchant herself, though? Doesn't she have an inward buffing ability? What am I thinking of?
No, she has the fighter power-up abilities that you get in the second game. And but other than that, she's just got she's Grandmaster in short swords, which is pretty good to say.
Quite a dab hand with the sword. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And then lastly, I guess we will, before we talk about lands, talk about Elminster real quickly. How do you feel about the Elminster? The 5 mana can be your commander, legendary planeswalker. Whenever you scry the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn, costs X less to cast, where X the number of cards you looked at while scrying. His +2 is... That's a static ability, by the way, everyone. Everyone loves a static ability on a Planeswalker now. And then +2 is draw a card and then scry 2. And his -3 is X on the top card of your library. Create a number of 1/1 blue fairy dragon creature tokens with flying equal to the card's mana value. And he starts on 5 loyalty. This is the most powerful wizard to have ever wizarded it.
It's the most boring card I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, literally any other wizard in fantasy could have this ability. Any of these abilities. I mean, it's so dull.
I must defend, so not as Elminster himself, the famous, most powerful Elminster, but I mean the fact that he does generate a load of fairy dragons by looking into the future is like an interesting concept. Maybe that's a reference to some Elminster story that I just don't know.
If it is,
I don't really get it.
I don't know either. So. Yeah,
well, fuck it. There's Elminster, everybody. How exciting. As we're recording this video, Rob, they have spoiled Tasty Chef. Master Chef. So you can have a Master Chef Sarevok now. Just so you know. Bountiful Promenade and the rest of the lands are back. The Battlebond lands. I'm just bringing this up here because I want people to know. Because it's a spoiler video and it's an interesting thing. This should be reprinted into the fucking ground because they're such good lands for Commander. And it just gets to show off parts of the world, which I always like as well. And I also want to bring up that the planes, all the lands, but this planes in particular I'm showing on screen, where it says, flavor text of, you've heard rumours of bandits along the coastway, but your journey so far has been surprisingly uneventful. Small bits of flavour that the DM would read to you as you go about your adventure is very fucking sick. I think we had similar stuff to this in AFR, but these ones just, I don't know, living true. So far, and the last card that also got spoiled and we haven't got on our list that I'm going to bring up now is Tashar Master Witch, Rob. So Tashar the Witch Queen is a 5-mana legendary planeswalker Tashar. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, create a 3/3 black demon creature token, which I already love mechanically. I'm super into playing other people's shit. +1, draw a card for each opponent, X up to 1 target instant social card from their player's graveyard, and put a page counter on it. -3, you may cast a spell from among cards in exile with page counters on them without paying their mana cost. She can be your commander. She starts with 4 loyalty. She's a witch stealing your shit. She's also the named spellcaster on Tashar's Hideous Laughter, which is a thing in D&D. A lot of spells like Agnar's Scorcher and all that sort of shit have names of famous wizards and witches attached to them. Anything else about Tashar you want to add, Rob?
So Tashar is the same as Mordenkainen, is one of the original party members of the first D&D adventure, upon which a lot of spells were named. So,
oh fuck! I didn't realise that was how that was. So it's like Gary Gygax's play group, Tashar, Mordenkainen. Was Elminster part of that, or Volo?
Elminster was not, and Volo wasn't either. But Tashar and Mordenkainen certainly were. Tashar is also known as Igwilv, who is the witchiest of witches. And is most commonly known. Spoiler alert for anybody who's currently playing it. The Light Beyond the Witchlight adventure, which I'm currently running with my party, and they're about to discover that very thing. So she's the Queen of Witches. Probably the best way to describe her. Very cool character. She's got a long history of the game, and Tashar was her kind of mortal.
So that brings us to the end of this rather long roundup of the initial spoilers. There are more flying out, so as you're reading this, there's going to be more that we couldn't cover. Also, this video is probably around an hour long now. If you enjoyed it, like I said, let us know in the comment section below. I'll get Rob on for some more like this as well. I'll probably do deep dives like this for all of the Warhammer stuff as well when that comes around. Thank you for watching. Smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.